Assalamu alaykum, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you again for all the support you've shown me through the comments and on Instagram. May Allah reward you. May Allah bless you. And I'm very happy to be here and to answer the questions you have in more in depth rather than keeping it a bit short when I would reply back to you on text. So for today, I want to bring this question. This person says, one of the major problems I face in dunya aspects as well as while trying to fight the nafs is somehow I can't differentiate which voice is from the nafs and which is the reason. I'm generally not a decisive person, and so in this area too, even for the smallest decisions, tiny ones. Subhanallah, so it's not surprising to me that this person has trouble with decisions because I can see just by the way they wrote this message that they approach life from the intellect a lot, primarily, I would say. It seems like they try to process their life and their experiences through their mind, which is something I used to do and I did for many years, as I mentioned in my previous video. And there is there are a few downsides when we approach life mainly from the intellect. And one of those downsides are that we become overly critical and we get stuck in endless thinking or harsh judgment towards ourselves or towards anything else sometimes. We can also be emotionally distant or suppress our emotions because we value logic so much that we believe it's going to be our mind and our reason the one that's going to give us the right answers. The right answers. And because of that, we can navigate this world with an inflexible type of mindset. We could perhaps be unwilling to consider different alternatives, different viewpoints. And I think the worst or the most painful downfall of all of this is that it blocks our intuition, it blocks our creativity. And our intuition is our divine guidance. And that's why we might be in a state of confusion and not knowing how to make a decision. So, before I address this, I just want to remind us that the Sufi path it encourages to do deep self-reflection, which is tafakkur, right? And I speak a lot about tafakkur. Through tafakkur, we reach inner unveiling, which is kashf. And that's why my goal, brothers and sisters, is not to give you fixed answers or fixed solutions. Because on this path, we understand that everyone's experiences are different. I can tell you what works for me, but you would need to tailor it to your own context, to your own experience. And it's the same thing with anything you can hear or anything you hear from anyone. Because Alhamdulillah, that is Islam. That's why Islam is timeless. That's why Islam is for all centuries, all times. It's a timeless religion because Allah is expecting us to use a combination of our reasoning, our intellect, which is akal, and our intuition, and to discern, to come up with ways to adapt the message to our day to day life. So I believe the more we'll discuss our challenges, our perceptions, and our experiences in this path, we can all come up with our own solutions. So I'm very grateful to you for your messages and for telling me how you are experiencing the path of spirituality and the path of you growing closer to Allah and the challenges you face. I'm always grateful to you for sharing that with me. So, to answer the question, I would like to start by saying that when we refer to the ego. When we talk about the ego in Islam and the Sufi path, we're talking about a very particular state of the ego. Okay, so as I think I've mentioned, I don't really say killing the ego is a way, because the ego, it serves a purpose. Now, there are different stages, right, of the ego. So for now, we're going to focus on nafs al amara, which is the lowest. That's why it's called the lower self. So the lowest state a human being can possibly be in is called nafs al amara, and Allah tells us in Quran, indeed the nafs al amara, and in Arabic it is actually mentioned al amara, is the nafs that overwhelmingly commands a person to do sin. Now, when we think of sin, sin is a very broad topic, brothers and sisters. In the spiritual reality, the more we are into this path, we're actually start to understand that a sin could be anything that blocks us from Allah, and blocks us from doing good, and blocks us from doing what is good for us and for humanity or from our communities. So in order to differentiate the voice of Nafs al Amara, we need to understand, okay, if I'm not going to listen to Nafs al Amara, what am I going to listen to, right? So now, on the question, if we go back, this person says, I cannot differentiate which voice is from the Nafs and which is from reason. We're not looking for the voice of reason in this path. So the question itself is doesn't have the right premise. Okay, so the solution is, if we're not going to listen to nafs al amara, what am I supposed to listen to then? And that is nafs al mutmaina. Okay, Allah tells us in Quran, Allah will say to the righteous. So this, just by this, we understand that the righteous people are the ones who are in a state of nafs al mutmainna. Okay, and nafs al mutmainna is a tranquil self, the one who is at peace. And I know society has sold to us the idea that, oh, in this world we cannot be at peace. How can we be at peace with so many killings, so many injustices, so many this, so many that? I know society has sold us the idea that we cannot achieve peace in this world. However, of course, that is not the reality. The goal of the Sufi path is for us to return to Allah while we are at peace and tranquil in the self that lived in a way that listened to Allah and surrendered to Allah. Peace doesn't come from what happens out there. Killings, injustice, and all of that, brothers and sisters, that's going to continue happening, unfortunately. And that has been happening in history for as long as human beings exist. So Allah clearly tells us your peace, your tranquility is not from what happens outside. It is a state of your soul that we need to acquire as we navigate this world. So if we're not going to listen to Nafs al Amara, we need to learn how to listen to Nafs al Mutmainna. Now, how can we do that? Well, let me start by saying that Nafs al Amara, if we go back here, it commands us to do sin in so many different ways. It's not going to just come and tell you, oh, commit sinna, or kill this person, or steal from here. That's too straightforward. It doesn't talk to us like that. It talks to us in ways that it hijacks our reason. Okay, that's why I was saying on this path we cannot just rely on reason, because nafs al amara hijacks our reason. I'm going to explain how. For example, when recording these videos, right? I could have started recording videos on YouTube from long time ago, like long time ago. I have been managing Sufi Quest for 6 years, and so many times it crossed my mind, why don't you just do it by voice, you know? But Nafsa Lamara would jump in and tell me, no, 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 don't you dare. You know it's not safe to do so. It's not safe for you to speak up. It's just not safe. Just stay quiet and stay small. Just, the more quiet you are, the safer you are. That's what my Nafs al Amara would tell me. Nafs al Amara adapts to your experiences, okay? So my Nafs al Amara, the voice of my lower self, was hijacking my reasoning because we know that being safe is right? Like we need to be safe. That's a need all human beings have, to be safe. So Nafs al was telling me, if you speak up, you are not safe. Now, how or why would Nafs al be telling me that? Well, because Nafs al as I said, gets information from our reason, and our reason, as I said, gets information from the things we have experienced in this world, or things we have heard about, or just basically information from this world. So it was getting information from my previous experiences as a child, where indeed I was in some sort of danger or I was in pain if I was to speak up. Okay, so that's an experience I lived in the past. So Nafsa Lamara would hijack my reasoning and tell me, stay quiet, don't share, just, don't do it because you won't be safe if you do so. If you speak up, you're going to be criticized, you're going to be judged. And those are things that happened to me when I was a child. But it takes work to become conscious of this. So now, this is Nafsa Lamara because while it can look like it's trying to keep me safe, it's actually commanding me to do something that, even though we don't think it's a sin, it is it is a sin in the sense that, first of all, if I'm a person that has some sort of experience and knowledge that can help my brothers and sisters, it is basically a duty to share. And this is for all of us, right? All of us have something of benefit to share. But it is Nafs al Amara who wants to keep us quiet because he doesn't want people to know ways to get closer to Allah. Okay? So, in a sense, when Nafs al Amara was telling me all these years, don't do videos or don't do this, don't speak up because you are not safe, he was using my reason and my previous experiences so I could say, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, no, it's not safe. Yeah, I'm gonna just keep quiet. But the actual intention of Nafs al Amara is, don't share with people what help you be close to Allah. Do not share that because people shouldn't get closer to Allah, you know? That's the idea of Nafs al Amara. That's why Allah tells us that it commands us to do some sort of evil or some sort of action that prevents us from feeling closer to Allah. So when we unblock or connect to Nafs al Mutmainna, how do we connect to it? So going back to the example I just gave you, now just more recently that I am posting these videos, Nafs al Amara came back. My Nafs al Amara was telling me, no, don't do it. You are not safe if you speak up. But Alhamdulillah, because I have been taming this voice for some years now I was able to connect to Nafs al Mutmainna, meaning my higher self, right? The version of myself that is within me, that is a divine light that we all have. Now, here I want to get into how I was able to finally listen to the voice of my Nafs al Mutmainna It's not something we do overnight. Why? Because, as I mentioned, Nafs al uses our reason to obtain information that we have lived in the past. It could be trauma, it could be moments we felt shame, we felt lonely, we felt humiliated, we feel all of those experiences we have lived, they are stored in us, right? And though that's information Nafsal Amara uses, and coupled with hijacking our reason, then that's why it makes sense to us. And we're like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm not going to speak up. However, in order to undo this process, what I did, of course, was trying to remove the effects of the trauma I went through. And there is no growth without us trying, brothers and sisters. Like, it will never be the case that we can grow while we stay in our comfort zone. So it's not just that I jumped to use my voice, right? Before doing this, I was doing smaller things that would be less scary, yet they were building my confidence. So I encourage you to always try to do things, even if you think they are small, but they are challenging for you. Just try them out, because that's the only way we can reverse this default mechanism that our nafs al-amara uses to self-sabotage us and to prevent us from growing closer to Allah. So another thing that helped me was, of course, learning about the processes of our psychology and learning how the Sufi path addresses the effects of, our trauma, which are called wounds of our soul. And this helped me understand that in the past, I used to not feel safe in the world. I had not built my character. I had no idea how to stand up for myself. I had no boundaries. I didn't know how to protect myself. So, obviously, imagine when we navigate the world like this, we cannot feel peaceful, right? We cannot feel tranquil. We cannot feel good because we are constantly afraid. We're constantly worried. So, what I highly recommend you doing is to increase your moments of peace as much as you can. Nafs al mutmainna, our higher self, the voice of our intuition, our divine voice that it lives within, it cannot come through. We cannot hear it when there is loud chaos in our minds. And loud chaos comes from all the experiences we have in process. Again, it could be trauma or insecurities or all of that. All of that is a loud noise that keeps running in the background that we might call reason. But the more we increase our moments of peace, the easier we can hear our higher self. So that's why I kindly ask you to try to make moments in your day to day where you might just sit in silence, or maybe go for a walk, or do anything that you believe can relax you and help you feel not stressed, not connected to those constant worries that keep running in the background. So yeah, inshallah, we will speak more about this if you wish. If you have any other questions or comments, of course, drop them below. But other than that, we'll speak soon, inshallah. May Allah reward you and bless you. Thank you for listening.